And hello here, this is Jan coming at you, daily podcast late today. Can't believe it's even afternoon. Just crazy busy today. Exciting though. And hey, if you're watching here live, thank you very much. And if you're listening on the podcast, Media and Marketing, super excited for you to be here today as well. And for enjoying these presentations. I really enjoy myself making these. There's just so much to learn, and clearly, you have a lot of choices out there in the marketplace of who to listen to, who to follow, etc. And so, for you all that are coming in here, hey, thanks a lot. Means a lot to me personally. And yes, I've been doing this for many years, and I really enjoy it, as I said. And nothing is stopping me yet, right? We just keep trucking along here, and you are inspiring to me. So thank you again. Just a little heads up from me on kind of where I come from on this. But of course, part of this whole game is about adding value, as I said, but also if there's opportunities to work together in a more closer fashion, hey, that's certainly welcome. And before I start today, I'm excited to share that we have launched a new training program called selloutmyevent.com. I put it up on the screen right there for you. If you are listening to this again, driving your car or jogging or, sitting at dinner, right? Then selloutmyevent.com is your place to go to get the new training and a bunch of case studies there. The framework that you're looking at right here provided for you as well. This is also being updated to version 3.0. This is a version 2.0 here to share with you. Really, from today's title is how to sell out your next event with Facebook ads, right? Selling out event tickets, concerts, workshops, seminars, conferences, all of that. And so you can get that at selloutmyevent.com. Now, I'm not going to make this a lengthy presentation today because I have follow-up videos and trainings on this, but I wanted to use this template, if you will, this blueprint ultimately for how to scale your event business. And some of you all have seen this before in a previous version. There was version 1, this is 2, moving up to version 3, along with a number of case studies where we use this. But really, very simply here, anything that you're doing online to try and attract an audience to your event needs to start with something exciting, like an attention grabber, right? So before I dive into this, I'm just going to kind of call it out. For who are you presenting this? Like, who's your target audience and what is that message? What is that attention grabber? It's got to stop the scroll, right? So if you have the audience and the who, right? And you have something that is, a pattern interrupt or something that really stops that scroll, you are on your way. This is a good thing. But you're not done yet, right? So the who, but then what? What is it specifically? So now you're getting into defining that in more detail. And by the way, using videos is a great way to do this for events. Obviously, you can showcase from previous events. You can have, happy clients, customers, patients, etc., depending on the type of event, concert goers, nightclubs, who knows, right? It is uniquely defined for you. And so once you have that, you can sprinkle this over time through sequencing, through videos, which I've talked about in previous broadcasts. Certainly the messaging's got to be on par, but this is where you also get into sequencing types of messages in terms of that timeline, right? It's not just a one-stop presentation. So that gets a little bit beyond this presentation here today, but suffices to say that if you have the who, and the targeting and the messaging, the attention grabber, and you move into the what, now you can move into essentially how, right? How they get this. And this is where ultimately the ticket sales happen in the back end, much like what I've described here today. If you want to learn more, just go to selloutmyevent.com. That's selloutmyevent.com. And you can learn more about it. It's a full presentation, case studies, downloads, and follow-up trainings as well, all free, no charge. And same thing for you, right? So what is it that they're getting? And that's where you have a number of steps to describe that as well. And so I'm just sort of calling out the marketing 101 for events right out the gate here. Now, this is very top level, obviously. And what you're looking at here, if you're coming in live, is the actual blueprint for how we do this. And so I'm going to take you through it here right now without going into all of the detail. But really, it starts with social proofing. That's phase 1 in your ad strategy. And this will provide, this model here will provide the highest probability of conversions and sales for for event advertising with Facebook ads, right? That's what we're talking about. Of course, as we scale this, we do Google as well, Google Display, YouTube, and there's many scaling methods here for you as you start to see success, and so that you can reinvent into your business. Now, the first phase is social proofing. And so this is where you really are capturing new audiences from cold traffic. You're certainly elevating your activity in terms of existing audiences, and that can also come from, likes, engagements, anything from an asset on your Facebook page, but also through website traffic on your website, of course, and videos, engagement from that, and CRM lists like email lists, subscribers, buyers, all of that. That whole 360 view into your engagement profile, if you will, using these custom audiences is going to be very strong, but you have to continue that. And if you're brand new coming in, you have to understand that social proofing in this phase one is going to be very important. In fact, going out in phase one and just starting the direct pitch is not a fruitful option for you. Typically, again, we have to look at each case, but that's how we start out. And that doesn't mean that you have to run 2 weeks of social proofing, right? You can run some of these in concert, and we use techniques that I've talked about on the on the podcast before. Is you can use something what's called a post ID to actually bind elements from an engagement campaign and a conversion campaign to essentially get the love on both of those two sides using the post ID and sharing those. But again, more detail than we need to here today. If you go back to previous broadcasts, I share with you how to do those. But ultimately here in this first phase, social proofing, audience building, and really using existing assets that you have to really get a quick kick out of the gate, right? But then here's where you also need to move into testing, right? You can't just simply set it and forget it, right? This is where we also look at little sprints, right? We call them sprints here, where we can test, especially if you have a tight timeline. You can go for short sprints with higher budgets and test for engagement, both from a social proofing perspective, but also for conversions, because you're running both. I'll talk about the budgeting and assets in another presentation. In fact, if you go to selloutmyevent.com, you'll learn a lot more about this and see the case studies and some of the results that we've gotten. So I urge you to go there. But then let me just bump over to phase two here, ticket sales. And again, there's not a black and white here, as I said. Some of this will happen in the social proofing in terms of ticket sales, but certainly once you start into hardcore ticket sales, attention drivers, and using the retargeting strategies and the scaling techniques that we talk about here, then now you can really start to get into your what we call the best response audiences. Now we're moving into the add to cart events, checkout events. And we can start to optimize for those. We can use retargeting techniques for those. And the goal here is really ticket sales. And one big thing here, when we talk about retargeting, we want to exclude folks who have already bought tickets for the event. We don't want those people to keep seeing the ads over and over again. Plus, it doesn't help on your overall sort of health of the account in terms of metrics and KPIs. And KPIs are very important. In fact, anything that you start should have this formula in place, which is, cost per lead or cost per acquisition less than your average order value. So if you have an event or a show or a nightclub or something that's kind of fairly low ticket, typically, under $50 or under $100, you want to make sure that you're tracking these numbers. We use a spreadsheet for this to make sure that it's tracked not only during the event process and building these ads, but actually prior, right? So we can do some math prior. I talk a lot about the math here. In fact, if the math works on digital paper, we can definitely make it work in Facebook, right? So this is where you now can really start to scale and adding, budget increases. You can start looking at scaling horizontally, et cetera. And then, of course, using assets within Facebook now to where maybe you've used prior static images or videos. Videos, of course, very popular and works great. But you can get into, Facebook Messenger, et cetera. So anyway, if you like any of this, just go out to selloutmyevent.com and sign up. It's totally free. And you'll see what we're doing there and the case studies, as I mentioned, and also get the download to this latest version. and get on the list so you get all the other free information there. So that's kind of the ad strategy side. On the customer journey side, on the other side here, as you're looking at it, this is where we get into the discussion of the top, middle, and bottom of funnel, right? So what does that look like? Talked a little bit about it in terms of the campaign types of, conversion campaigns and PPE campaigns, but also looking at expanding this using video view campaigns. All of this, though, has to tie together with your back end to make sure that you're not only tracking all of this, that the reporting syncs up, that the KPIs are in check, but also as you start scaling, that your numbers are not starting to get out of place. Because we often see when folks get too aggressive too fast, Facebook doesn't know how to catch up with that. There's techniques for that, obviously, inside Facebook, and we'll share that with you as you go through the training, which is totally free at selloutmyevent.com. But here's where it gets exciting, because now, of course, you'll be adding email marketing to the fray, to the conversation, which really should be an ongoing thing always to try and capture that. And also start to look at perhaps you're doing international, right? Well, you can go really big with this once you have the model in place. And so this matrix or this blueprint here is something that you can use as a guideline to that as you start scaling up. Now, I should say that there's free training available if you just came into this right now at selloutmyevent.com. Sounds like a total pitch fest here today, but I'm just so excited. I just got off 2 calls this morning with folks who are ready to take their event business to the next level. A lot of frustration out there I'm getting in terms of like not understanding how the ads work, especially for the scaling. Certainly there's newbies in this, meaning new folks coming into, doing their first workshop and trying to drive traffic over with Facebook. But there's a lot of established businesses, small and large. We had a large event that we used, that we actually were part of late last year, and had over 9,000 tickets sold. So clearly a lot of activity. Events are very popular also because, of course, it creates communities, face-to-face, nothing like it, especially for business, even small workshops, 5-10 people, although that's easier to do in terms of getting folks there. There's still a technique for not only getting folks to those events, but also building up these assets behind the scenes. So really you can use it again and again and again, right? Just updating essentially the creatives, but using this framework over and over again. So anyway, that's kind of a brief walkthrough of some of the things that we'll be sharing on selloutmyevent.com, but also something that you can use right now and think about the exciting aspects of Facebook and what you can use for event marketing and selling out tickets ultimately using Facebook ads. So this is Jan here again, coming at you from the Digital Marketing Center here in Los Angeles. Fancy setup here today. We're just looking at the screen here, but hey, I'm just always excited, as I said, to share these with you, and hope you enjoyed this presentation today, and I'll come at you again tomorrow. We have more exciting things. We're going to show you how to drive more traffic with search engines and search engine optimization. I wrote 3 books on those topics for Entrepreneur Press. So keep watching, keep listening, and if you like this, go to selloutmyevent.com, and we'll see you inside there. All right, take it easy, guys and gals.